Dear listeners, welcome to our English program podcast Kaleidoscope. Listeners, the learning and development landscape has changed significantly over the last few years and will likely evolve even more in the coming years. New technology, hybrid workforces, and abundance of information and post-pandemic preferences have altered perspectives on career development. What people want from their careers and employer has also changed significantly. According to a recent survey, 77% of employees are reporting that they are reading to learn new skills. So now is the time to refine training strategies and meet employees where they are eager to learn and grow. So listeners, in our today's program, we will try to unravel the future of learning and employment, a comparison between today's education and the needs of future economy. To discuss this wonderful topic, we have in our studio Sayed Mohammed Shoeb, a chemical engineer turned educator. He is now a dedicated education advocate, social entrepreneur, and change maker who is committed to transforming lives and communities through education. With over 8 years of experience, he has spearheaded initiatives to address educational disparities and empower underserved populations. Driven by his bold vision, Shoeb and his team at the Panaah Communities are on a mission to reintegrate 1,500 plus dropouts into Pune's educational system, facilitate admissions for over 100 plus students into India's top colleges, and empower youth and children to become change makers through 1,000 plus community projects. By 2029, they aim to impact over 10,000 children, laying the society. So let us dive deeper into the future of education with Shoeb. So Shoeb, firstly, welcome to our program Kaleidoscope.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gaurav. It is a pleasure to be with you.
So Shoeb, your profile is really interesting and the vision of your organization is need of the hour. So firstly, could you please tell us a bit about yourself, your journey, and how did you arrive at this problem that you have set out to solve?
Yeah, thank you so much. So, just to start from the very fundamental, I was born in a similar low-income community in Mumbai. I was born in a place, this is right between the Nehru Planetarium and the race course. There was a big patch right next to the biggest drainage of Mumbai. My grandfather was first generation migrant from UP who came there in mid-60s. So I was born in that community. Something that fundamentally shifted my life outcomes was my mother and her vision for my education. Right. She not just, really worked very hard for educating me and all my brothers, but also realized that if we live in that vicinity, in that neighborhood, we might not get where we could potentially be, or what our, what our potential was, we might not be able to achieve that.
Okay.
So that is when, she made sure that, when I was in grade 1, I came back from school and I said something which she found, not so cool, not so good. And she then made a decision that, even living here is not good. Even though my child is going to a good school, but vicinity is also impacting the upbringing. So we moved to Mira Road back then in 2002. Okay. And then I did my schooling in a very good school from there. And then touch wood, things happened for me. I got into chemical engineering. And one day when I came back from college, I was sitting and suddenly a thought came in my mind. And that was like, what would my life be if I was born in the next house? And that sort of shook me. And I was like, wow. And that was the day when I realized that the opportunity that I have is a privilege. Having the mother that I have is a privilege. Many in the neighborhood did not have that. And that is when I started thinking deeply about education. And that is when I thought that I need to switch here. Because I was born in that community, because I was born in that issue, I was really able to connect. And that is what led to me to think and realize that there are multiple issues which, many children in the communities face, and there has to be someone, who has to think deeply and solve those.
So that's great, Shoeb, actually. So your background and your childhood memories led you to do something for the underprivileged.
Yeah.
And you wanted to solve this problem. So what are your thoughts on the current state of education in India, like especially in terms of preparing students for the future economy?
So I have really strong opinions and strong thoughts around this. Let us take example of a really good school that and let us think what is happening in the school for the entire day. So students are going in the school, they are attending some sessions, lectures, they're preparing for a test maybe at the end of week or at the end of month,
Right.
or maybe like end of 2-3 months, end of year, and they're just coming back. What happens when they come back? So some of them who are fortunate, they go to tuitions.
Yes.
And when they're going to tuitions, they're doing the exact same thing which they have done in school.
So that's result oriented.
Yeah. So there are 2 to 3 skills that they're building while they're going through this process. One is they're learning how to memorize. They're learning how to, one sum is given and they're told to do the another sum, similarly follow the same steps.
Yes.
So they're learning repetition and they're learning some memory skills. And in some good schools, they're learning some basic computers.
Right.
Now, look at the job market today. Do you need individuals who can memorize? Do you need individuals who can do repetitive tasks? Do you need individuals with basic computer skills? You don't. Because all of this is now being easily done with technology, easily done with we have such a buzz around AI these days. So whatever is being taught in schools is resulting into some skills, but those skills are not needed. So my understanding is in most of India's schools, of course we can leave the top 2%, 3% or maybe 5% who are really reimagining and rethinking about, what education is. But fundamentally, we are still rooted into industrial era learning where we had to teach the students to follow.
Right.
We had to train them for an industry setup where you don't need to think,
Yes.
where you just need to follow. One person will think and 300 will follow because that is how an industry works. But in today's workforce, you don't need that. You don't have one person thinking, everybody's doing the thinking. So my understanding is, education system is still rooted in the past, maybe like 50 years or 100 years ago. And the sad thing is we have to prepare students for the next 25 years. Today, a child who is in grade 5 will enter job market 15 years from now.
Oh.
Is anyone thinking that what are some of the skills that the child will need 15 years from now?
Yes.
In 2024, a child in grade 5 will be in job market at 2047 maybe or 2037.
Yes.
What are we training this child into? What the world can... In 2010, were we able to predict what 2024 would be? We didn't know there will be ChatGPT. We didn't know there will be Midjourney. We didn't know there will be, advancement in tech. Maybe 10 years from now, drones will do food delivery, or maybe 5 years from now.
Yes.
So it is very important to ask ourselves this question is whether we are actually, preparing children for the future economy, or whether schools are doing enough, or our system is doing enough, or our system is still rooted in something which is, very, very old.
So Shoeb, you and your team at the Panaah Communities are on a mission to reintegrate 1500 plus dropouts into Pune's educational system. So can you shed some light on the dropout crisis in Pune and how organizations like yours are addressing this issue?
No, actually, that's a very good question. Something that we as our team asked ourselves fundamentally, So one big issue in Pune is, of course, the number of schools. There's demand, but there's no supply. So just to give you some statistics, we have 280 municipal corporation schools.
Okay.
Out of that, around 180 are Marathi medium, around 33 are Urdu medium, and 54 English medium schools.
Okay.
You'll be surprised, for these 280 primary schools, we just have 44 secondary schools.
Oh.
So for every 8 primary school, you just have 1 secondary school.
For every 8 primary school, there is only 1 secondary school.
In
oh my God.
the Oxford of the East.
Oh.
In the city where you have most universities, most colleges, and across the world, students are coming and studying here. But what is happening to the poor of the city? So now what happens is a lot of them, they drop out after 7th because there's no school to go into grade 8th.
Oh.
So a big dropout happens, and especially girls drop out here because
Yes.
parents don't want to spend. There are a few number of girls who get admission, boys who get admission. Now, what happens to the others? So some parents are really wanting to further their education because good thing is, even for the parents from low income communities, they've realized that education or good education is a ticket to better life. So they spend money, but they go into an affordable private school.
Yes.
Which is like a low income school. They will take admissions because of course they'll get fees. But these students are not ready. They are not at the level of grade 8. So all of these schools then ask them to stay in grade 8, 9, but they fail them in grade 9. So, 99% passing percentage this year. 99.4% is the passing percentage in this year.
Yes.
But there is no data on how many are failing in grade 9th. Because students who might not clear grade 10th, we are removing them in grade 9th only. So there are two issues here in the dropout crisis. One, there is huge dropout.
Yes.
Where we run our main center in Ganeshpet, we did a small survey. Within 1 kilometer vicinity, last year we found 756 who were failed in grade 9 just in 1 kilometer of our center.
Oh.
Just imagine what is the status in Pune, just imagine what is the status in Maharashtra and maybe India.
So this is a huge crisis.
It is a huge crisis, and the sad thing is we don't have data. And there is no way to get this data because this is so unorganized. And we try to get the data because only with data you can show or make some change. So that is why when we realize that it is very, very important and crucial, because even from a slight push here, they can continue to be in the education system. Once they're out in grade 9th or in grade 7th, they can't come back. And they become largely the part of, maybe unemployed adults or maybe people who are going in unorganized sectors and doing odd jobs, which will again put them back in the cycle of poverty.
So that's a huge problem that we are looking at. So how do you envision the future of learning? Like what changes can be done to overcome this problem and the necessity to align education with the needs of the future economy? What can we do?
Yeah, that's a very, very crucial piece. And this is something that we have been asking ourselves for, 2.5 to 3 years now. One of the basic thing that we need to, first of all, align on is ask ourselves that what will be the need of India's economy 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 15 years from now.
Okay.
What are some of the skills that will be important for children and young adults to build so that they are able to not just survive, but thrive in the future economy?
Yes.
So I'll just give you one example, like taking a step back. Let's say in early 2000s, Android was a new thing. Android came. It was just getting developed, right?
Yes.
Now think of people who learned Android at that time or who had access to Android at that time.
Yes.
Who became coders for Android at that time.
Right.
What are they right now? They are the millionaires and billionaires of the world.
Wow.
And today, if someone is becoming an Android developer, they're getting 25,000 rupees per month salary.
Yes. But those who were there first, who arrived first,
Yeah.
they are multimillionaires.
Exactly. So early birds get the worms.
Right.
Now, when you look at the youth and the children who come from the most marginalized communities, most high need communities, do you think they will ever be the early birds if we don't, put a path for them? We really have to bridge the gap, and this is the gap of inequity. That gap needs to be bridged and opportunities have to be given to them, and more opportunities and more push needs to be given to them so that they are enabled to build certain skills which will put them ahead at least of where they are right now. So as I imagine future of learning as this big opportunity for everybody. As this thing where every child or every young adult is getting this opportunity to get those skills which will help them to get to a better path of life.
Right.
That's the fundamental piece. And secondly, something that's underlying are 3 to 4 top skills that many employers are saying will be in demand for a very long time. Right. As I said, memory skills will not be in demand. Basic computer skills will not be in demand. Rote learning will not be in demand. That is what is being taught in schools today.
Right.
So what will be in demand? Creativity will be in demand. Do you have ability to create something from scratch?
Oh.
Cognitive empathy is in demand, which is perspective taking. In a work environment, if I'm working in a team of 4, am I able to take perspective of other people?
Everyone. Yeah.
Am I able to work in collaboration? Am I taught collaboration? So only if you're taught collaboration when you're growing up, you'll be able to collaborate.
Right.
Advanced communication will be in demand. We say a lot of time that speaking is a very good skill.
Yes.
But I also think keeping quiet is also a good skill.
Yes. Right.
जैसे बोलना स्किल है वैसे चुप रहना भी बहुत बड़ा स्किल है.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
at times you can be quiet and solve a lot of problems. Yeah. So that is advanced communication. How are you listening well? How you're being quiet? How you're taking other person's perspective?
Right.
That is a very important skill that's needed in job market.
Yes.
And if some of these skills, including communication, cognitive empathy, creation, and finally complex problem solving,
Right.
what happens to you when you are presented a complex problem? Do you have an approach to solve that problem? Because in many, many workplaces, you have to face problems every single day. So do you panic or do you have a way? Do you know how to get or how to leverage? So if some of these skills can be integrated and built in children while they are in grade 5, grade 6, or maybe, when they are in their college, they'll be much, much better prepared. And this will be really, really crucial for India's economy and India's growth as India is taking like a global stage in the world and as India is moving towards becoming a global leader.
Yes.
This will be really, really crucial that we really, really push ourselves a little more than what we could so that these individuals, ultimately contribute largely more than they are doing right now towards our economy.
Wow, that's really well answered and eye-opener at various levels. Thank you so much for that. Shoaib, I remember in school, like the best part of school was having those after-school sessions. We used to have NIE sessions, a leading newspaper at that time. People used to come from there and they used to give us their time and talk about aspects of the world which were not there in the syllabus. So for us, that was really eye-opening at that time and led to a lot of personality development at that level. So what role do after-school programs play in bridging the gap between the current education and the future employment needs? And that is what Panaah is looking at as well. So you're the best person to answer that.
Definitely, I wouldn't say we are home, but definitely what you mentioned is exactly what our vision is. Today, after school in India is equated to tuitions. Now, what is tuitions? Tuition is where you are going and doing something that you were not able to do in school.
Right.
Which is like you are learning, maybe doing your school homework. Yeah. And for that, parents are happy to spend money, etc. You have another extreme where you have coaching classes. Many of them which run locally, you have similar school teachers coming in the coaching classes and teaching there.
Yes.
So student is listening to some lectures in the school for 6 hours and again listening to same lectures with same teacher many times for 3 hours, and parents are paying fees both the places, and then parents are blaming the child saying that we are paying so much and you're not able to do anything, but not realizing that what is happening with the child. Similarly, this is for like middle income and higher income. Similar is the case for lower income also. So students go to government schools and then go to some tuitions. Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to blame coaching classes or the tuition teachers here because they are just supplying the demand. There is a demand from parents that child needs to go somewhere. In developed economies, you look at Europe, you look at USA, you look at, even Australia and some part of Southeast Asia, also in Africa, whatever little I have researched on, there's a huge emphasis on after school hours. There's a big, big emphasis. And after school hours are actually seen as the prime places or prime time in students' daily schedule to build something that they were not able to build at school, to do something which is not happening in the school.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Which is maybe like, working on a project or going out and doing some social service or like, creating something in their neighborhood, in the vicinity, coming together for a cause. That is missing. And hopefully, we at Panaah are trying to change that. So the change comes from the mindset first.
Right.
Our parents needs to be educated, needs to be made more aware so that they, really think beyond just schools, because honestly speaking, schools are not end of it. And with the current system, with the current textbook education and learning methodology, they're not taking students anywhere. So definitely after school has a big role to play. Why? Is because it is very difficult to change a school system. Right. So if I have to change something in school, where I have to start? I have to start from, it's a big elephant, where will you move the elephant from? If you move it from the trunk, it will not move from the tail, if you move it from the tail, it will not move from trunk. Yes. So it's a big elephant. So for us to create more proof points, it has to go through after school route. And, more and more innovative projects and more innovative initiatives, something what we are also trying to do, if they come up, only then we will be able to see change that will be sort of a butterfly effect out of these small examples.
That's great. So Shoaib, I've heard that there are a lot of interesting things happening at this level in Panaah. So could you share some examples of different activities, innovative learning centers that you have been carrying out, and also how it is contributing to this vision of future learning and employment?
So, there are many things we are doing. Just to give you one example, we have this beautiful concept of labs. So we have 6 labs. All labs are similar.
Okay.
Right? I'll give you just one example of one of the lab. That is Media Lab that we are running in partnership with Lighthouse Studios. Really good dear friend of mine, Safdar Rahman, is working with me on this. So what we realized is there's a huge opportunity in the media industry, in the media stream, and there are a lot of jobs, but there are not enough people. So we took these students who are potentially dropouts, who come from these communities, and we took them through our Media Lab program, which is like a 3-month program where they learn filmmaking.
Wow.
And they learn low-tech filmmaking. They make films through their phones.
Great.
They do story writing, script writing, storyboarding, pre-edit, post-edit, production, post-production, everything. And as they do that, they are building certain hard skills and they're also building certain soft skills. Now, recently, like a couple of weeks back, we did a film show where we hosted top film industry, I would say giants, where, including Samar Nakhate, Megha Ramaswamy, all of them came.
Great.
And we screened 10 films made by these youngsters who did not know filmmaking at all. All of them were really, really excited by the work that has happened, which tells me there's a huge opportunity. There just needs to be a bridge. Now, our intention is to put them. Now, as they build certain skills, what happens as the next step in labs is they go through these cycles of learning and doing. So every lab is a project. So Media Lab, a film is a project.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship lab, you thinking of a startup, that's a project. For a tech lab or a robotics lab, there's a project. Similarly, all our labs, including art lab. Art lab also, there's a project. So you're working towards building something. Wow. And you go through these cycles of building stuff. And then in summers, we put them in summer internships. Okay. So we are now in the process of talking to India's biggest film institutes and media studios, where these children who are making films with us will do internships in summer. Similarly, in tech, those who are learning tech and are making projects through tech will do internship with some of the biggest tech firms. Right. Now, what happens is they get exposure and they go through another cycle. And our idea is if we can bridge this opportunity gap, when they're doing internships, when they're doing projects, finally can they end up, in some of these institutes and get a high-paying job.
Become employable
And also get employed in the similar field. So within a year or two, I really, really am hopeful that, at least 20, 30, 40 of our young adults will get into really high-paying jobs.
Wow. That's a great vision. And you have already started working towards it. So lastly, Shoaib, what message would you like to give to educators, policymakers, and the community about preparing our youth for the future economy?
One thing that I've learned, Gaurav, in the last 6-7 years of being in education is we cannot work towards an incremental shift. We cannot be happy with small success now. Normally programs, they shift indicators by 2%, 3%. Yes. There's a need of a paradigm shift. There's a need of a big shift. And that needs courage and that needs some determination and a vision. So especially people who are seeing this as a gap, we need to try something drastically different.
Right.
So that will be my big message to people who are listening. To educators, I would just say that I know how hard educators are working, how difficult it is for teachers. And it is very, very challenging for them to deliver what they are doing because they are overburdened, overworked. Yes. But still, I think teachers are the only ones who can really bring this change or shift by asking good questions. If all educators listening to this can ask themselves this question, is whatever we are training our children to be, is it going to be relevant in the future? Whatever I am teaching my child today, is it going to really work, or is it really important for them? Is it really relevant for them? How is it helping them? I think just asking this question, And the third and the final piece, last but not the least, of course, is our work with parents. I mean, fundamentally, we need to invest more in parents. Our relationship with parents shouldn't be just transactional, which is like they come to us, give us some fees, and we give some service. Making them aware and leveraging whatever they have is very crucial. So I think combination of these 3 points of like, for policymakers, like real courage to be able to see a transformational shift, for educators to be asking really good questions, and for parents to be involved more deeply in child's life journey. Again, I bring back to where I started from. It was my mother who has changed
Absolutely.
my life course. Otherwise, I would have still been there in the same community, still struggling for 23,000 rupees job. It was my mother who had this vision for me and for my life. So yeah, that is where I will stop.
Thank you, Shoeb. This has been insightful at so many levels. Whatever you are doing at Panaah is really great, and best wishes for the future. Keep doing this. Thank you for sharing your insights on the future of learning and employment. So it was a pleasure having you at Akashvani. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gaurav.